using everything from bomb-sniffing dogs to more than 10,000 cameras to keep everyone safe.
We are bringing some of our X-ray scanning technology that we typically use at the border here to the venue to scan every piece of merchandise, every truck and or car that goes into the venue this week to make sure that everything that goes in there is safe.
A new feature could be coming to Snapchat. Instead of self-destructing photos and videos, the app would allow you to permanently post the pictures.
A colony of elephant seals have taken over a beach in Northern California. The San Francisco Chronicle says it started during the government shutdown when there was no staff to shoo the animals away.
And in this dangerous and deadly cold, an inspiring story of a Good Samaritan who has given a gift that may have saved some lives. In Chicago on Wednesday, where it was minus 13 degrees with a wind chill, a tent camp of about 70 homeless people were trying to stay warm. Heaters were set up to try to help, but when one of those heaters ignited, the group needed to move right away. So you know what happened? A Good Samaritan heard what happened, came to the rescue, paying for them all to spend the rest of the week in a hotel. Wow. The Samaritan has chosen to remain anonymous, but so many are thankful this morning for that gift of warmth.
It's been negative 20 degrees in Chicago for several days now. Alex Perez is there braving the cold along with ABC News Radio's Ryan Burrow. Guys, what is the impact of this kind of cold after so many days?
Well, Romina, it makes it almost impossible to do anything. You literally feel like you are freezing no matter where you are outside, and that's why they're telling everyone to stay inside. Take a look behind me here. You can see that's Lake Michigan there. It's frozen, kind of covered in snow, hard to see. But if you look in the distance, you'll see that steam rising from the lake. The lake water, of course, warmer than the air and the temperature, and that's why we see that steam. But just a sign of how cold it is. As you mentioned, our colleague from ABC News Radio here with us, Ryan Burrow, and you've been out in this cold. You were over by the Chicago River. How you holding up, first of all?
You know, you can only be out here for a few minutes at a time before the fingers start getting numb and the toes as well.
That's what happens, right? And you were kind of testing out how dramatic this cold is, the cold is, and you did a few tests. Tell us about that.
Yeah, these are some fun things that we can do to test out how cold it is. This is a shirt. I just put water on it about 10-15 minutes ago, and look at that.
So in 15 minutes, they got pretty much solid stiff.
Yeah, exactly. We froze up a banana. This thing right here, it's hard to tell, but this thing is hard as a hammer right now. You could nail down something with this right here. That's how hard it is. And this one, I have not had a chance to try yet, and unfortunately, we don't have concrete here, but you're supposed to be able to bounce a frozen tomato on the ground. It's supposed to be like a rubber ball almost. So just some fun things that a lot of people have been home over the last few days are trying to do.
I'm sure. What happens if you hit these two together? Yeah, you can.
It's pretty solid. It's not breaking, that's for sure. So
you can hear that, and you know, all these tests that we're doing, all these things that we're freezing, just to give people an idea of how serious this cold is, because it takes just a couple of minutes before it can become a dangerous medical situation.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've seen is people throwing boiling water up in the air. It almost instantaneously turns to snow. I mean, that just shows you how quickly and how cold it is out here. And you know, the only thing that I really encourage if people are going to go out and do this is, you know, you've got to do it in short bursts. You can't be outside for a long time messing around with this stuff. We were able to go inside and outside a lot, so that was very helpful.
Absolutely. It's very dangerous. We talked to a doctor, Romina, yesterday at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. He told us in less than 5 minutes, frostbite could begin on exposed skin outside, so you have to be very careful. And of course, this cold is creating a lot of problems. Illinois State Police saying they responded to more than 1,300 calls from motorists yesterday. That's about 10 times more calls than they usually get on any given day. Romina?
It looks like you two are the only people out there. I'm wondering, is the city doing anything to help its homeless population?
Well, we do look like the only two out here in this particular location, but there are some people out and about. We have seen some traffic. Of course, people trying to hurry and get from one place to the other. But yes, the homeless population, something the city is very, very concerned about. There have been CTA buses, the public transportation buses, warming buses that have been taken to areas where they know that there are homeless people, and they can go in there to warm up. But the bigger thing, officials are trying to get those homeless people out of the cold, get them to warming centers in the city, at least until it warms up a little bit outside. We know this cold is going to be here for at least one more full day, and then we're going to start to see some relief. We'll get above zero, which is something that everyone here is looking forward to, finally.
Thank you, guys. Alex Perez and Ryan Burrow in Chicago. That cold has moved east. It's 2 degrees here in New York City, and in upstate New York, where Whit Johnson is, it's 8 degrees, but the wind chill is below zero. Whit, I bet you're hoping you were back in Los Angeles right now. What is it like where you are?
Well, I can tell you it's definitely not California, that's for sure. But, you know, we're hanging in there. You mentioned those temperatures being in the single digits, and with that wind chill, overnight recorded a temperature of negative 38 degrees if you factor in the wind chill. That's what it feels like in parts of upstate New York. We actually pulled off on the side of the road because we were further north in Ellisburg, Virginia, and it was dangerous whiteout conditions. We actually got stuck on the side of the road for a period of time, but we had to drive out. We waited for a little while, but some emergency crews, some plows, some law enforcement vehicles were moving up the road. There was sort of a caravan that was developing because people were getting stuck on the side of the road. It was very dangerous to stay put in one place because other vehicles were then coming up. They were losing control in the icy conditions. They were banging into each other. So we finally found a bit of a clearing here, again, in upstate New York. But I can tell you, there is a lot of concern. We were able to drive out of that lake effect band that was just relentless. It was falling at a rate of 2 to 3 inches per hour when we were up there during our live shot for Good Morning America. Our meteorologists tell us at one point it was falling at 4 inches per hour. So that gives you a sense of how quickly it was developing. And you can see this accumulation here as I walk around. I mean, this is all fresh powder right here. All of this coming just in the overnight hours and into this morning. And we've seen some of the trees here. You can see them behind me. Some trees just overloaded, drooping under the weight of that snow. That is also a major concern as trees can come down, power lines as well, creating outages. And we've seen from the Midwest to New York, flights delayed and canceled. We've seen treacherous driving conditions. There was a 21-car pileup in the Buffalo area yesterday. There was a chain reaction wreck in Pennsylvania in Reading that led to more than 24 vehicles being involved. So a number of injuries and issues that we're definitely dealing with. And you know what? It's not over. We were able to drive out of that lake effect band, but it's still going to impact this area in the Northeast throughout the course of the day. Romina?
Wait, you described the conditions as dangerous, and I think that's the key word with this. You know, the storm has turned deadly. There are at least 8 deaths. What can people do in these areas to protect themselves?
It's really important, and officials, they're emphasizing this, overemphasizing it, just trying to beat this through so people pay attention. They want people off the roads. They want people inside. They want people to wait it out. That's why schools, businesses, government offices are closed right now. The only vehicles they want on the roads are the plows and the emergency vehicles that are trying to get through. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is something that a lot of people might not be familiar with, but frostbite is a major concern. They say with temperatures like this, with the wind chill in the negative degrees, you can get frostbite in 15 minutes. So that's something to really consider. I mean, I've had a mask right here over my face. You're supposed to cover up all of your skin, cover up your eyes. You don't want those tear ducts exposed because those can freeze as well. So really cover up, stay inside, and just wait this thing out.
Stay warm, Whit Johnson in upstate New York. We move now back to New Jersey. A massive fire tore through a paper factory that turned into an 8-alarm blaze. Gio Benitez is in Elmhurst.
Hey there, Romina. This is as close as we can get because officials are still there working on this, but no doubt about it, an incredibly dangerous fire here in Elmwood Park, New Jersey. In fact, if you look at this photo, you could actually see how big this blaze was from the sky. This was a passenger on a plane heading into Newark International Airport, and they could see that fire from the sky. I was driving on the highway here overnight, and I saw how massive this fire was. I saw these firefighters working, and I just thought, oh my gosh, it must be incredibly cold. I looked at that temperature reading, 4 degrees with a wind chill of -12. those are the conditions that these firefighters have to work in. And you know, what's incredible here is that 200 employees were inside the building at the time of this fire, at the time that this fire broke out, and none of these employees were injured at all. So that's just unbelievable and incredible. But no doubt this is just a reminder of how dangerous this is and how difficult it is for these firefighters to be working in these conditions. Romina?
Thank you, Gio. Now let's get the latest forecast. ABC News meteorologist Melissa Griffin joins us now. Melissa, how long is this going to last?
And you know, Romina, that's the biggest question. It's what's on everyone's mind. And in short, not much longer. So there is a bit of good news. Take a place like Rockford, Illinois this morning. They reached -30. Not the wind chill, that's the actual temperature. And it was the all-time record coldest temperature they've ever seen. So let's take a look at the maps here. You see those winter storm warnings. We saw wind out there in the snow, several feet of snow possible. Places like Western New York, they've already seen snowfall rates of 4 inches per hour. But these are the actual temperatures posted here on the map. It is -6 right now in Detroit. It is -19 in Minneapolis. Only 8 degrees in New York. We were 2 here earlier this morning, and that was the coldest we've seen in 3 years. But it's the wind chill that has just been relentless, and it is still -30 plus below from Minneapolis to Chicago. So it is still dangerous, life-threatening cold that they're dealing with here. For some places, 24 to even up to 80 hours. It's been over wind chill below zero in the Midwest, and then here in the Northeast, we're seeing wind chills below zero as well. It feels like -4 in New York, -5 in Boston. Tomorrow morning, it's not going to be as bad. We're still seeing wind chills below zero, but look at this, -8 it will feel like in Chicago. It felt like -52 just yesterday morning, so a little bit better. And we're still below here in the Northeast, but after Friday morning, that's when we're going to see a major change. Take a look at the temperatures on Sunday. 48 in Chicago. It's going to be almost 50 degrees there just after feeling like -52 degrees. Even in New York City, 46 for the high on Sunday, and down in Atlanta, where they're going to have the Super Bowl this weekend, it will be in the 60s. So overall, it is just a complete temperature roller coaster here. We're going from wind chills 50 below to actual temperatures of 50 above in the Midwest. So they're going to be feeling like it's in the dead of summer.
Wow.
Exactly. 100-degree difference it will feel like.
So amid this cold snap, there's a lot of talk about climate change. Can we even tell if climate change is impacting this particular storm?
Well, you know, Romina, it's hard to tell and pinpoint the exact details if climate change is impacting a particular storm in general. But we can tell that there's a lot of research being done, and that people think, oh, you know, global warming, why is it so cold here? Well, global warming is just the warming of the globe, not in a specific region. So you have somewhere like the Arctic, which is warming. The ice is melting, the Arctic is getting warmer, and that can actually impact and make cold blasts like this more severe in places like the United States. So that's what we can tell, is that global warming is impacting the Arctic, and that can impact very severely across other parts of the country and around the globe. So we don't know if it's impacting this exact event, but it is impacting the globe in general.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Now we move to the unrest in Venezuela. We're live in Caracas with Cody Weddle, who's been updating us all week. Cody, yesterday, big demonstrations across the country. This, as many as 11 foreign journalists have been arrested. What can you tell us? What's it like on the ground?
Well, for us reporters here, it's pretty worrisome that that amount of journalists were arrested yesterday. It's pretty uncharacteristic as well. We're still trying to figure out exactly what happened. We know that some of the journalists were arrested outside of the presidential palace. Those of us who have been here for a very long time, although certainly legally they're allowed to take photos and videos outside of the presidential palace, generally the security forces, we've seen it before, they will detain people who are doing that. And we're still waiting for some more information on the other journalists arrested and the circumstances around that. But certainly concerning for us here. Meanwhile, politically, we expect Juan Guaido today to announce his plan for the country. So the parallel government here continues to grow.
Yeah, and you mentioned that plan. Opposition leader Juan Guaido, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times today, and he is planning to present that plan for the country. What can we expect from that?
Well, I think we can expect his plans to address the humanitarian and economic crisis here, how he expects to get humanitarian aid into the country. We'll see if he also addresses how exactly he gets Maduro out of office, because that's really the principal that's what he needs to make this happen, or otherwise it's really just a symbolic plan because he has very little authority here in the country so far. We'll see if he has any more plans to try to get the military here to flip on Maduro.
Thank you so much, Cody. Cody, live in Caracas. Now to Washington, where President Trump appears to be undercutting bipartisan talks on border security just one day after. Karen Travers is live at the White House. Karen, what can you tell us about this today?
Yeah, well, yesterday there were talks, but it only went about an hour and 10 minutes. Not a lot of negotiating, and now the House is out for the next couple of days, so in theory, everything's on hold for a bit. Conversations are still taking place, of course, but the president today, with a series of tweets, seems to be undermining these conversations before they really get underway in earnest. The president says that Democrats are not going to give him money to build what he calls a desperately needed wall. He says, "I've got you covered." Now, we don't like to get into the president's head on his tweets, but he certainly seems to be suggesting there, Romina, that he'll come up with another way to get the billions of dollars he wants to build this border wall, almost throwing in the towel on the fact that he's not going to get it out of these bipartisan negotiations. Just a few seconds ago, we're hearing that Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker on Capitol Hill, said there will not be border wall money in any deal that is reached. That's the Democrats' hard line in the sand on this one. So this opens up the president to perhaps moving forward on that promise to declare a national emergency if in 2 weeks he doesn't get a deal he likes.
Karen, can we expect another shutdown? Is that possible?
It's certainly possible, and the president a week ago said he would do it if he doesn't get something from lawmakers that he could accept. He essentially laid out two options. One, shutting down the government again, which certainly lawmakers do not have any appetite for and are very hesitant to back him on that strategy. And the second option is what the president called a very powerful alternative. That's declaring the national emergency, taking money from other parts of the federal government, putting it toward the border wall. Of course, if he does that, there's a lot of pushback from even some Republicans who say bad precedent, not the right path, and it will be challenged in court. So he can't just write himself a check and start building the wall. That would really stall the process. But the president could say, I tried. It was my last best card to put on the table, and we tried to get it done.
And Karen, what are radio listeners asking for today?
A lot of conversation still about the president's personal insults about the intelligence community yesterday when those leaders who were up on Capitol Hill on Tuesday pushed back on some of his prominent claims about national security issues. Today, there was also a lot of conversation about the trade talks that are taking place in Washington right now with China. The president will meet behind closed doors with the vice premier of China. And there was a lot of anticipation that perhaps he could announce a long-term agreement and end this escalating trade war that we've seen over the past year between the U.S. and China. Romina, the president tweeted today that he's optimistic about where things are heading, but said there will be no final agreement reached until he sits down with China's President Xi, maybe teeing up a possible meeting in February. Remember, they're planning here at the White House for the president to meet with Kim Jong-un in Asia by the end of next month. We could be seeing a China stop tacked onto that as well.
Thank you so much, Karen. Karen Travers live at the White House. We move now to Florida because a Florida story is always welcome. A 50-yard tunnel has been discovered leading from a wooded area to the drive-up teller of a bank. Victor Oquendo is in Pembroke Pines with the latest. Victor?
Romina, crews are starting to arrive on the scene this morning. It all started when a sinkhole opened up in the middle of the street. And when crews responded, they spotted a power cord inside, and then feet away, we can show you, that's the entrance to the tunnel, right over there in that grassy area. And the FBI says it leads all the way underneath this street, and it leads to that drive-up ATM at this Chase Bank branch. The FBI worked well into the night digging away at this tunnel. The tunnel itself, it stretches nearly 50 yards, but it is very narrow, just 2 to 4 feet wide. Crews sending a robot and a canine unit inside, and what was recovered made it clear this was an attempted bank burglary. Authorities finding muddy boots, a ladder, a wagon, power tools, and a small generator. The tunnel never actually breached the bank wall. No money was taken. They may have been trying to go for the ATM. Now the FBI is asking for the public's help to try to find whoever tried to pull this off. Romina?
Thank you, Victor Oquendo, live in Florida. Now we go back to Chicago, where police say they may have located potential persons of interest in the alleged assault attack of Empire star JUSSIE Smollett. Stephanie Wash joins us from Chicago. Stephanie, what's the latest with the investigation?
So after poring over hundreds of hours of surveillance footage in the downtown Chicago general area, Chicago police announced yesterday that they did actually locate video that shows 2 potential persons of interest in the alleged attack on Jussie Smollett. Now, what the video shows is a pair. Again, these are unknown persons of interest. It shows them walking down the street between 1:30 and 1:45 a.m. on Tuesday morning on a street called New Street in Chicago, which is in the general area of where Jussie Smollett alleges he was attacked. Now, there are 2 cameras Chicago police have confirmed to our Chicago affiliate. In one camera, you do see the 2 persons of interest get off of a bench. Right across the street, there is another camera that shows Jussie Smollett. He's walking down the street. Now, there is a minute that Jussie Smollett actually goes off of camera. He walks out of the frame. When he does reappear on that camera, on that surveillance footage, you see him walk into his apartment building, and he does have a rope around his neck that he's wearing like a necktie, according to police. Yesterday, the music manager of Jussie Smollett also confirming to ABC News that he was actually on the phone with Jussie when the alleged attack occurred. He says that he actually heard the words MAGA country being yelled, and that he heard a racial slur and heard some sort of scuffle. Now, Chicago police did confirm to ABC that they do have that eyewitness account from Jussie's music manager, but they are unable, unfortunately, to independently confirm this without phone records. They say that Jussie Smollett refused to turn in his phone to authorities.
Stephanie, is there still no video, though, of the actual assault? And is there optimism that something will pop up?
So there is no video of the assault on these surveillance cameras that police have found. After speaking with Chicago police spokesman yesterday, he tells me that police are taking this very seriously. They are still combing over surveillance footage. They're hoping that the public will react to this community alert that was sent out overnight, hoping somebody saw something, will say something. They do have a tip line out for tips. But there is no video of this alleged attack. But again, Chicago police are doing their due diligence and are continuing to investigate this very seriously and doing all they can to at least locate these persons of interest and bring them in for questioning.
All right, thank you so much, Stephanie Wash, live in Chicago. Thank you guys for watching The Debrief. I'm Romina Puga. Please tune into our political show, The Briefing Room, at 3:30 today. And make sure you check out World News Prime at 8 p.m. And of course, remember to download the ABC News app. We'll see you guys tomorrow for more.